My name is Shen Yu, but inside the archive, they call me the Raven Archivist. I collect the cases that official reports could never fully explain. Missing people, forgotten villages, closed roads, old photographs, witness statements, names that appear where they should not exist. Most people call them ghost stories. I call them files. But not every file begins with something supernatural. Some begin with an ordinary order placed late at night, a familiar restaurant, a polite delivery driver, and one message that should never have been sent. Tonight, I am opening one of those files for you. A case built from false identities, staged evidence, buried guilt, and a delivery that was never accidental. The file is called The Last Delivery File. Welcome to the Raven Files.
My name is Lin Yuwei. 3 years ago, a bowl of malatang was delivered to apartment 2206 at exactly 9:17 p.m. By the next morning, police believed the restaurant owner was the victim, the delivery driver had disappeared, and the police had recovered 3 things from my home: a container of food that smelled like chemicals, a burner phone left outside my door, and a photograph sent from the account of a man who was already dead. In my first statement, I told the police I had no idea why anyone would target me. That was not completely true. There was one name I thought might matter. I was simply too afraid to say it. The name was Zhou Jinghan. But to understand why a woman who had been dead for 5 years became the center of this case. I have to begin with dinner. That night was a Friday in late autumn. Rain had been falling since noon. By the time I left work, it was a little after 8. I reached home shortly after 8:30. I lived alone in apartment 2206 at West Bank Gardens, on the south side of Donghai City. My job was to review advertising content for an e-commerce company. Most days, I spent hours looking at exaggerated claims, edited photographs, and promises designed to sound more believable than the product itself. I used to think I was good at noticing when something felt wrong. That night proved otherwise. I came home cold, exhausted, and hungry. I did not want to cook, so I opened a food delivery app. At the top of the page was a small restaurant called Xiaoman Malatang. I had ordered from the place before. The owner was Gao Mingde, 52 years old. He was quiet, a little slow, but the restaurant had always seemed clean enough. At 7:12 that evening, the Xiaoman account had sent me a discount coupon marked Returning Customer Offer. I saw nothing suspicious about it. Later, the app's technical team discovered that the coupon had not been sent to a customer list. It had been created 3 days earlier, scheduled in advance, and addressed to one account only, mine. The coupon had been created using an administrator code copied from the restaurant's tablet. Old security footage later showed how it happened, during an earlier pickup. Zhou Jinghan had offered to help Gao Mingde fix a syncing problem on the ordering system. Gao knew him as a familiar driver. He handed Jinghan the tablet and went into the back room for less than 2 minutes. That was enough time for Jinghan to photograph the access code and account settings. He did not kill Gao and then suddenly invent a way to lure me into ordering. The door had been prepared in advance. That night, he was simply waiting for me to walk through it. I selected a medium spicy broth, mushrooms, greens, tofu, and 1 serving of meat. The order was confirmed at 8:42 p.m. 3 minutes later, the app assigned the delivery to Zhou Jinghan. His profile picture showed a young man in a yellow helmet. His rating was almost perfect. There were nearly no complaints. At the time, I did not realize that was another detail worth noticing. Xiaoman usually allowed the app to assign drivers automatically, but my order had been switched to restaurant-assigned delivery using the same stolen administrator code. Then it had been sent directly to Jinghan's account. The algorithm had not chosen him. He had chosen himself. At 9:17, my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole. The driver was tall and thin. He wore a yellow uniform, a helmet, and a face mask. He held an insulated delivery bag in one hand. The other stayed inside his jacket pocket. I opened the door but left the security chain in place. Order for Lin Yuwei. His voice was young, soft, polite. I accepted the bag through the narrow opening. Before he left, his eyes moved past me and into the apartment. Only for a second, but long enough for me to remember later. I placed the delivery on my dining table. The smell reached me as soon as I opened the lid. It was not the ordinary smell of spoiled food. It was sharp and sweet, metallic, with something underneath it that reminded me of diluted cleaning fluid. I moved the broth with my chopsticks. A dark piece of meat rose to the surface. The cut was too thick. Its texture looked bleached and unnatural. I could not identify what kind of meat it was. I opened the order chat. The conversation included 3 parties: the customer, the restaurant, and the delivery driver. I typed, "The meat smells wrong. Please check the ingredients." The message was marked as read almost immediately. The restaurant account replied, "Impossible. The meat arrived today." Then it sent a photograph. I looked at it for less than a second before dropping my phone. The image showed a stainless steel kitchen. On the cutting board was something covered with a white cloth. Hair, an ear, the outline of a human face. That was enough. Beside it sat a heavy knife, a pot of boiling water, and red stains that had been partially wiped away. The next message appeared. "Do you want to know how fresh it is?" I could not move. Zhou Jinghan sent 3 messages in rapid succession. "What kind of joke is this, Lin Yuwei? Do not eat anything. I'm calling the police." I picked up my phone and opened the photograph again. This time, I forced myself to look carefully. On the wall behind the cutting board was the cat-shaped clock from Xiaoman. I had seen it when I ate there in person. Behind the victim's left ear was a curved scar. Gao Mingde had a scar in the same place. I pressed the emergency call button. At that exact moment, my doorbell rang. Once, then twice. A man's voice came from the hallway. "Lin Yuwei, it's me. The delivery driver." I looked through the peephole. Jinghan still wore the yellow uniform. His mask was now below his chin. His face was pale and clean-cut, almost scholarly. Sweat covered his forehead even though the hallway was cold. "I did not remove the chain. What do you want?" "I was afraid you hadn't seen the messages. I already called the police. Don't touch the food. And don't throw it away. It could be evidence." "What number did you call?" He paused, half a second. "The Nanzi precinct." "Who did you speak to?" "A desk officer. I didn't ask for a name. At the time, I assumed he was shaken. Later, that pause became the first real sign that he had stepped into the role of rescuer too early. I told him I had seen the messages and would leave the food untouched. Jinghan nodded. "Lock your door." He turned toward the elevator. Before the doors closed, he looked back at me. It did not feel like concern. It felt like someone checking whether the first part of a performance had worked. I called the police. The dispatcher recorded my address, the restaurant name, and the order number. When I said the driver had already reported the incident, she checked the system. There was no matching call. She said he might have called another line. I did not pay enough attention to that difference. 10 minutes later, the restaurant account sent another message. "Which one of you called the police?" It was a joke. "The police are already here." A photograph followed. 2 uniformed officers stood outside the Xiaoman sign. Later, investigators determined that the image had been taken from a neighborhood chat group, darkened, and resent from Gao Mingde's phone. At the time, I only knew that whoever controlled the restaurant account seemed to be watching the scene. Messages spread through the residents' group. Somebody said Xiao Man had been sealed. Somebody else said Gao Mingde had killed a man and fled. The official police notice said only that Gao was connected to a serious incident, that his location was unknown, and that witnesses should contact investigators. It did not identify him as the killer, but everyone filled in the missing space, including me. My phone vibrated. A text message from an unknown number. "Were you the one who called the police?" Another came immediately. "Do not think a locked door makes you safe." Then another. "I know you live in 2206. My address was connected to the order. But my real phone number was not supposed to be visible to the restaurant. The app used a masked relay number. The sender had obtained my number somewhere else." Before I could think about that, another message arrived. "Medium spicy broth. That was your order, right? I will remember what you like." I took screenshots and tried to call the police again. My hand slipped. I accidentally called the unknown number. The call began ringing. At the same moment, an iPhone ringtone sounded somewhere beyond my bedroom. Very close. I froze. The ringtone lasted 2 seconds, then stopped. A new message appeared. "I'm here." I ran into my bedroom and locked the door. My phone showed 1% battery. The emergency call did not connect before the screen went black. The charger and my laptop were in the office across the living room. I lived on the 22nd floor. The bedroom window opened only a few inches. No one would hear me scream. I sat against the foot of the bed and forced myself to think. The front door was locked. There were no signs of damage. When Jing'an delivered the order, I had kept the security chain on. No one should have been inside. The ringtone could have come from the hallway and echoed through the apartment. If a phone had been placed directly outside the front door at full volume, I might have mistaken it for a sound in the living room. That was the most reasonable explanation. But I was too afraid to test it. 15 minutes passed. No footsteps. No drawers opening. No movement outside the bedroom. Then someone knocked hard on the front door. Jing'an's voice came through the apartment. "Lin Yuwei, are you in there?" I did not answer. He called my name again. I saw the police notice. Gao Mingde really is connected to a murder. I came back because I was afraid he might come after you. I shouted through the bedroom door. I heard a phone in the living room. He might already be inside. The hallway went quiet. Then Jinghan spoke quickly. "Do not come out. Let me check. Call the police." "I already did. They're at the restaurant. If he's inside, you cannot wait." I was terrified. And I gave him the code, 3301. Months later, a prosecutor asked why I would give the password to my home to a stranger. There was no answer that sounded intelligent. Fear does not always make people stupid in a simple way. Sometimes it makes us choose the nearest human presence over the unknown thing on the other side of a locked door. At that moment, Zhou Jinghan was the only person outside who claimed he wanted to save me. I heard the keypad. The front door opened. Footsteps crossed the living room. Later, crime scene photographs showed my work bag resting on the chair near the bedroom hallway. While pretending to inspect the apartment, Jinghan had enough time to attach a tracking device beneath the lining at the bottom of the bag. A few minutes later, he called out, "No one is here. I kept the bedroom door locked. What about the phone?" He searched, then answered. It was outside the front door. I opened the bedroom door a few inches. Jinghan stood in the living room holding an old black iPhone. My number was visible on the screen. He called the police in front of me. This time, the call was real. It accomplished 3 things. It made him look cooperative. It gave him a legitimate reason to be inside my apartment. And it earned the trust he needed for the next stage. Detective Chen Rui arrived with 2 officers. He was in his 40s, quiet, careful. He never rushed toward the easiest conclusion. He made Jinghan place the phone into an evidence bag. Then the officers searched the apartment. There were no signs of forced entry. Hallway footage showed a person in a gray raincoat placing the phone against my door about 30 minutes earlier. The figure wore a mask and kept the head low, height, approximately 6 feet, thin build. Later, police found a second delivery bag, the gray raincoat, disposable shoe covers, and a discarded phone case inside a maintenance cabinet on the 23rd floor. Investigators reconstructed the sequence. After his first return to my door, Jing'an went upstairs, changed into the raincoat, placed the burner phone outside apartment 2206, sent the threats, then changed back into the yellow uniform before returning as the concerned driver. The cabinet allowed him to move between those identities without leaving the building. I looked at him. He was about the same height as the figure, but he was standing beside the police, offering his phone, answering questions. His cooperation made my suspicion feel irrational. Chen asked when he had first called the police. About 9:20. Show me the call. Jinghan opened his phone. There was no call. He said he might have used a calling feature inside the delivery app. A technician checked. The app had no such feature. Jinghan gave a nervous laugh. Maybe I remember it wrong. Everything happened so fast. Chen did not argue. He wrote down every word. The police sealed the food container, photographed the apartment, collected the burner phone, and exported the full-order chat. I told Chen about the chemical smell, the clock in the photograph, and the curved scar behind the victim's ear. He showed me a licensing photograph of Gao Mingde. The scar matched. If the man in the photograph was Gao, then someone else had been using his account. The police left near midnight. Before going, Jing'an asked if I wanted him to stay. I said no. He added me on WeChat. If anything happens, call me. As the officers carried away the food container, I saw him watching it, not with fear, with disappointment, as though the most important prop in his performance had been removed from his control. I did not sleep that night. I reviewed every message. 4 things did not fit. Jinghan claimed he had called the police, but there was no call. The restaurant account reacted the moment police arrived, as though the user was following local chat groups. The person at my door knew my real number, and the driver returned twice, each time when my fear was at its highest. The next morning, Chen Rui asked me to come to the station. A female officer named Xu Lan joined the interview. They showed me photographs of Xiao Man, Gao's silver delivery van, and the gray raincoat found near my building. Blood recovered from a drain beneath the prep table matched biological material from Gao Mingde's personal effects and a family reference sample. Then he was the victim I asked. Most likely. Who drove his van away? We don't know yet. They asked why a stranger would build an entire terror campaign around me. I said I had no idea. That was my only deliberate lie in the case. Not because I knew the killer, but because I knew a piece of my past could make someone hate me. I did not say Zhou Yiran's name 5 years earlier. Yiran had been my roommate and closest friend at Donghai University. We both followed the same famous singer. I won 1 ticket to a concert held on Yiran's birthday. I gave it to her. Before leaving the dorm, Yiran called her younger brother on speakerphone. I stood beside her and heard her joke that Jinghan would complain because she was missing the birthday cake at home. That night, a crowd crush occurred. 1 emergency gate had been partially locked. The standing area was over capacity. Security responded too slowly. 17 people died. Zhou Yiran was one of them. The official investigation blamed the event organizer, the venue contractor, and the security company. But Yuran's mother once called me and asked one question. If you had not given her the ticket, would my daughter still be alive? I carried that question for years. I went to therapy, changed my phone number, moved, cut contact with most people from college. I knew Yuran had a younger brother. I simply did not remember his name. When Shulan asked whether anyone from my past might blame me, I still said no. I was afraid the police would look at me the way Yuran's mother had, as someone who had never held a weapon, but still somehow deserved responsibility for a death. That afternoon, police found Gao Mingda's van on the Beltway. The driver was not Gao. His name was Han Bo, a freelance courier. Han said a young man had paid him to wear Gao's spare work jacket, drive the van out of the city, and abandon it in a parking lot. The man claimed the vehicle was part of a staged insurance dispute, and that the owner wanted the departure captured on camera without showing the real driver's face. Han knew the request was dishonest. He did not know it was connected to a murder. Han never entered the kitchen. He did not know there had been a murder. He saw money. That was all. The plan failed when the van struck a divider and traffic police checked the registration. Han's phone showed a payment from an unregistered digital wallet. ATM footage showed a tall, thin man loading cash into the account. His face was hidden, but he wore a silver bracelet with a musical note charm. In an old university profile picture, Zhou Jinghan wore the same bracelet. That same day, the delivery app confirmed that my order had been manually assigned to Jinghan. The discount coupon had also been created manually. The killer had not stumbled into my order. He had caused it to exist. Shilan placed a photograph of Zhou Jinghan in front of me. Did you know him before that night? No. He had an older sister named Zhou Yiran. I could no longer keep silent. I told them everything. Chen Rui did not accuse me, but he told me that withholding the name had cost the investigation almost a full day. During that time, Jinghan had withdrawn cash, cleared most of his room, and replaced 2 communication devices. If I had spoken sooner, the police might have blocked part of his escape. That lost day stayed with me longer than anything Yiran's family had ever asked. Investigators checked Jinghan's history. 23 years old, former student at Donghai University, dropped out during his 2nd year. After his sister died, he trained in electronics repair and spent several years doing temporary work involving apartment access systems, surveillance cameras, electronic locks, and building maintenance equipment. 6 months before the murder, he registered as a delivery driver in Nanxi district. His account repeatedly appeared near my office, my train station, and West Bank Gardens. He had been watching me. Cloud backups from Xiaoman provided the missing sequence. During the previous 3 weeks, Jing'an had appeared at Xiaoman several times as a delivery driver. On 2 of those visits, he had no active pickup. He remained near the counter, offered to help with the tablet, and studied the ordering system. On the night of the murder, he entered at 7:56 p.m., carrying an oversized insulated bag. Gao was discussing the old concert tragedy with 2 customers. A television program about the singer was playing above the counter. Years earlier, Gao had posted online that people who died at the concert had at least died somewhere they wanted to be. Jing'an already knew about those posts. He did not hear one cruel sentence and suddenly lose control. Gao had been selected in advance. Gao was the first target. I was the second. The last customers left at 8:18. Jing'an locked the front door. Gao tried to call someone. They struggled. The camera cut out at 8:24. Forensic analysis placed Gao's death between 8:25 and 8:32. My order appeared on the restaurant tablet at 8:42. because the broth base, spoiled pork, burner phone, raincoat, and staging materials had already been prepared. Jinghan needed only a few minutes to add the vegetables and tofu I selected, seal the container, and assign the delivery to himself. He left through the rear exit at 8:51, already wearing the delivery uniform and carrying the completed order inside his insulated bag.
Xiaoman was less than a mile from my building. Traffic cameras confirmed that he could have reached my door by 9:17. The meat had been treated with strong spices and a trace amount of diluted cleaning agent, enough to create a frightening smell, not enough to serve as an intentional poisoning. After Gao died, Jing'an used the body only to stage the photograph. No human tissue was placed in the food. The malatang was a psychological weapon, nothing more. The app records showed that he activated the delivery status only after sealing the completed order. That closed the last gap in the timeline. The police obtained a warrant for Jing'an's room.
It had been nearly emptied. Inside a cabinet, they found a box containing photographs of Zhou Jinghan, a faded copy of the concert ticket, articles about the crowd crush, and dozens of photographs of me taken from a distance, outside my office, at the train station, near my building. On one sheet of paper, Jinghan had written two names, Gao Mingde, Lin Yuwei. Next to Gao, the man who mocked the dead. Next to me, the woman who chose who would die in her place. That was his logic. I had not given my friend a birthday gift. I had selected someone to die instead of me. The burner phone left outside my apartment was partially recovered. It contained a map of the 22nd floor, camera positions, the stairwell, and notes about the time I usually returned home. It also contained phone numbers gathered from an old data breach. Mine was on the list. Jing'an had not obtained it through the order. He already had it. Everything I thought had begun that night was only the final stage of 6 months of preparation. Police issued a warrant for Zhou Jinghan. He disappeared. Han Bo was questioned for hours, but not detained. Video, location data, and a statement all showed that he had never entered the kitchen and had not known about the murder. The police ordered him to report any further contact from the man who hired him. Jinghan used a new number. He promised to pay the remaining money in cash. He also warned Han that if he went to the police, he could be charged as an accomplice. Han was frightened and tempted. He had recently lost his main job. His father's medical bills were overdue. He convinced himself he could collect the money and walk away. He deleted the messages and went alone to an abandoned warehouse. He told no one. That was his final mistake. Meanwhile, the police moved me to a protected apartment. Jinghan sent 2 messages. Are you all right? Have the police found Gao under Chen's direction? I waited. Then I replied, I remember Zhou Jinghan. 5 minutes later, he answered, You do not deserve to. It was the first time he openly acknowledged the motive. Police tried to trace him. The signal passed through multiple public Wi-Fi networks. I typed, What do you want me to apologize for? You know, if you want to hear it, speak to me in person. He sent the address of an abandoned warehouse. The police refused to let me go. A tactical team entered first. The building was empty. A speaker played an old recording of Zhou Jinghan. A phone inside the warehouse redirected the signal. It was a diversion. Jinghan wanted the police somewhere else. Chen kept a second team with me. Jinghan did not appear. 3 days later, an envelope arrived through a courier service. Inside was a copy of the concert ticket. On the back, someone had written, You gave my sister a place to die. The shipping camera showed only a masked person in a cap, no usable fingerprints. The most frightening part was no longer whether Jinghan could find me. It was that he always seemed to know where the investigation was moving. Chen suspected an accomplice. There was none. Jinghan had hidden a tracking device inside my work bag during his first visit to the apartment. The device was smaller than a coin.
It was attached beneath the bag's inner lining. During the first search, officers focused on the apartment, the burner phone, and the food. My bag was not considered evidence. No one removed the lining. I carried the tracker into the police car, into the station parking area, and later into the protected apartment. It transmitted location, not audio, but that was enough for Jinghan to follow every major move. Once it was found, technicians moved the active tracker into a decoy bag and transported it to another hotel. Jinghan took the bait. Cameras recorded him near the building in a maintenance uniform. He recognized the trap and escaped through a service passage. But he dropped his mask. DNA on the inside matched the unidentified blood found in Xiaoman's kitchen. Investigators also found purchases for high-capacity batteries, radio components, and circuit boards that could be assembled into a short-range homemade signal jammer. By then, the case against him was strong, but he was still free. 2 weeks later, a body was discovered in a roadside motel. The dead man carried false identification in Zhou Jinghan's name. His face had been damaged. A silver bracelet with a musical note charm circled his wrist. Height, age, clothing, everything appeared to match. Chen Rui did not announce that Jinghan was dead. He ordered the information sealed and waited for DNA. At the same time, police left the preliminary identification uncorrected inside a limited building management channel they believed Jinghan had previously monitored. No public announcement declared him dead. But if he was still watching the same information sources, he would believe his false identification had worked. 36 hours later, DNA identified the body as Han Bo. Jinghan had lured Han with the unpaid money, killed him, and staged a false suicide. The plan had two purposes: reduce the pressure of the search and make me believe I was safe. This time, Chen did not allow that to happen. He proposed using apartment 2206 as a controlled operation. Information suggesting that I had returned home was deliberately exposed through a staged appointment with building management and a vehicle route easy to follow. Chen made it clear that I could refuse. The plan would be cancelled if I changed my mind. The original objective was to arrest Jinghan in the hallway before he reached my door. The operation was approved by Chen's superiors. 2 arrest teams were assigned. Emergency medical personnel waited downstairs. I agreed. Not because I was brave, because after weeks of being moved from place to place, I understood that Jinghan would continue until someone stopped him. The apartment was checked twice. Building management confirmed that a maintenance shaft ran behind the kitchen cabinets. The access panel had supposedly been sealed for years. The visible inspection seal appeared intact. Records said the passage was no longer used. The inspection team photographed the outer panel but did not remove the kitchen cabinet to examine the old mechanical lock behind it. Jinghan later entered from the utility side, leaving the visible seal inside the apartment undisturbed. That harmless-looking detail became the weakness Jinghan exploited. Hidden cameras were installed in the living room and hallway. A silent alarm was mounted beneath the table. Chen and the primary arrest team waited inside the vacant apartment next door. Shulan monitored the feeds downstairs. My phone remained connected to police at all times. At 9 p.m., the hallway camera lost signal for 11 seconds. A man in a maintenance uniform used a cloned access card to enter the service stairs on the 23rd floor. He descended through the utility space, then entered my apartment through the plumbing access behind the kitchen cabinet. The kitchen camera captured only a shadow before its power cable was cut, but a second camera disguised inside the living room smoke detector had its own battery. It continued recording locally. Chen knew the loss of communication might be deliberate. Jinghan had the knowledge and components to build a homemade short-range jammer. He ordered the teams to move.
At the same time, Jinghan closed the glass divider between the kitchen and living room. He wedged a metal bar through the handles. I stood near the front door when my phone vibrated with the emergency signal.
The kitchen light came on. The frosted glass door slid slowly open.
Zhou Jinghan stepped into the room. He no longer wore the yellow uniform. He wore a black sweater. In one hand, he carried a small pot. His face was calm. "You came home." I moved toward the silent alarm. He smiled. "Do you want malatang?" I pressed the button beneath the table. There was no sound, but I knew Chen had received the alert. Jinghan placed the pot on the floor. "You think they can hear us?" He removed a small, homemade, short-range jammer from his pocket. My phone lost cellular and Wi-Fi service within seconds. The homemade jammer had only a short range and could not affect wired equipment or erase stored data.
The kitchen camera was already dead, but the battery-powered smoke detector camera continued recording locally. The team next door could no longer hear the conversation in real time. I had to keep him talking until they forced open the service passage. "You planned to kill Gao before that night?" I said. Jinghan looked at me. "You understand that now. It was not one sentence." "No. He had already been chosen." "Yes." "What about Han Bojing?" Han said nothing. "He had nothing to do with Yuran." "He knew my face." "So you killed him to keep the plan alive." "You are lecturing me." A faint metal sound came from behind the kitchen wall. The arrest team was breaking the service lock. I continued. "You know I did not kill Yuran." His face tightened. "If you truly believed I was a murderer, you would not have needed to play the rescuer. You could have killed me the first night. Stop talking." "You wanted me to trust you first, to open the door, to feel safe because of you. Then you wanted to turn that trust into a trap." He watched me for a long time. The plan had never been only about murder. It was a ritual, a gift, trust, safety, then betrayal. "She trusted you," he said. "I trusted her too. You gave her the ticket." "I gave my friend a birthday present." "You chose who would go in your place." "I did not know there would be an accident." "But you lived." That was the true center of his hatred. Not the ticket, not Gao Mingde, not the old news reports. He hated the fact that I was alive. And his sister was not. "You know I did not cause the crowd crush," I said. He did not answer. The event company was too large. The security contractor disappeared. The manager received a light sentence. I was the closest person you could force to carry all of it. You do not deserve to say her name. I remember her. Shut up. She hated cilantro. She went to sleep with wet hair, and before the concert, she called you. Jinghan froze. She called me from the dorm, on speakerphone. She said her little brother would complain because she was missing the birthday cake at home. For 1 second, the anger in his eyes cracked. Behind it was grief, real grief. Then he pulled a knife from his sleeve. "That is enough." I stepped back against the wall. "You killed Gao because of his words. You killed Han because he could identify you. You watched me for 6 months. You built false evidence. Everything after Yeron's death was your choice." Jinghan lunged. I moved, but the blade cut across my arm. Pain burned through me. I fell against the wall. He raised the knife again. Under the emergency plan, Shulan's team struck the front door to pull his attention forward. At the same moment, Chen Rui forced the maintenance lock behind the kitchen. The 2 impacts sounded almost together. The service panel burst open. Chen and 2 officers entered behind Jinghan. Shulan's team broke through the front door. Chen ordered him to drop the weapon. Jinghan turned. Too late. One officer drove him against the cabinet with a shield. Another locked his knife arm. It ended in less than 10 seconds. When they placed him in handcuffs, Jinghan looked at me. He did not shout. He asked one question.
Did you ever truly remember my sister? Yes, I said. He lowered his head. For the first time, he did not look like a killer playing a role, only a younger brother who had walked too far from the day his sister died.
Zhou Jinghan was charged with the murders of Gao Mingde and Han Bo, stalking, threats, illegal entry, fabrication of evidence, and the attempted murder of Lin Yuwei. The prosecution did not depend on his final words. The evidence formed a complete chain. The scheduled coupon, the stolen administrator code, the manually assigned order, the restaurant's cloud footage, his blood in the kitchen, DNA from the discarded mask, the digital payment to Han Bo, the apartment map, the photographs of me, the tracking device, the burner phone, Han's staged death, and the battery-powered camera recording from the final operation. Jinghan admitted killing Gao, but claimed it had been a sudden act. The preparation proved otherwise. After nearly a year of proceedings, Zhou Jinghan was sentenced to life imprisonment.
The court found that his family trauma explained part of his descent, but did not reduce his responsibility for 2 planned murders and an attempted third. At the final hearing, Zhou Yiran's family did not look at me. I did not look at them for long. No one in that courtroom had won. Gao Mingde died because one man decided cruel words should be answered with death. Han Bo died because he made a reckless choice, and because Jinghan could not allow a witness to remain alive. Jinghan lost the rest of his life because he turned grief into the right to judge others.
And I had to live with 2 truths at the same time. I did not cause Zhou Yiran's death, but the ticket I gave her was part of the chain of events that brought her to that place. Connection is not the same as guilt. Innocence does not mean the absence of pain. Remembering someone does not mean accepting a crime that was never yours. After the case, I moved away from West Bank Gardens. A year later, I visited Zhou Yiran's grave. I brought white flowers and a copy of the official Crowd Crush report. I told her about Gao Mingde, Han Bo, Jinghan, and the question he asked before the police took him away.
I remember you, I said. The wind moved through the cemetery trees. There was no answer. I did not expect one. At the base of the stone was a packet of strawberry candy, the kind Yiran used to like. Maybe her family had visited. I placed the flowers beside it. Before I left, I said one more thing. But I will not die in place of your memory. It took me years to understand that. Pain should be remembered. The guilty should be held responsible. But grief does not give us the right to choose a living person, place the full weight of an absence on their shoulders, and call it justice.
Nearly 3 years after the crime, when the trial was over and the electronic preservation order was finally lifted, the food delivery app closed the complaint connected to my old order. The system asked whether I wanted to rate the driver. The name was still there. Zhou Jinghan. 5 empty stars sat beneath it. I did not choose any of them. I closed the app, then deleted the account. I used to believe this file began with a container of malatang that smelled wrong. It actually began with a concert ticket given in kindness, a locked emergency gate, a family that needed one human face to hate, a man who turned death into a cruel conversation, and a younger brother who spent years turning connection into guilt. In an investigation, police search for relationships between cause and effect. But not every relationship is responsibility. Not everyone at the beginning of a chain created the ending. That was Zhou Jinghan's mistake. And for a very long time, it was mine too. Now, whenever a doorbell rings late at night, I stop. I check the peephole, the camera, the driver's name. Then I open the door. Some fears never disappear. They become habits, but I still open it, because if I do not, Zhou Jinghan will continue deciding how I live, even when he is no longer standing outside, and I refuse to allow that. This is the complete truth behind the final order from Xiaoman Malatang. It was the final order confirmed through Xiaoman's account before the restaurant system was frozen as evidence. A case that began with dinner and ended with 2 deaths, 1 arrest, and a question without a simple answer. When tragedy happens, who is guilty? The person who gave away the ticket, the person who locked the emergency exit, the person who turned death into a joke, or the person who chose to turn grief into a reason to kill. The police can close a file with evidence, a court can close it with a sentence, but for the people who survive, some files never truly close.
The official report may close the case. The court may name the guilty, and the evidence may explain how every step was planned. But not every file stays silent. Some doorbells still sound different after midnight. Some names remain attached to choices they never meant to make. And some survivors spend years learning that being part of a tragedy is not the same as causing it. Lin Yuwei survived. Gao Mingde and Hanbo did not. Zhou Jinghan was sentenced. But the question at the center of the file remains, when grief demands a face to blame, how far can a person go before pain becomes a choice? If another file is found, if another witness comes forward, I will open the archive again. Until then, this is Shen Yu, the Raven archivist, and the last delivery file is now closed.